My name is Jim Manning, and I'm the author of Patriotism Unhinged, which is available worldwide through online retailers. I want to thank the people who have made comments and made suggestions. All of them are very, very important. Several people have asked about my background and experiences. Those experiences helped hone my skills in those investigations. I would like to just give you a little peek at things that in my life. I have for many, many years been in a number of businesses, small businesses, but one that has been with me my whole life is investigative work. I worked for a New York publishing company one time selling law books, and the law books indicated how a lawyer might make more money on a case or win the case on a point. A lot of the lawyers then would ask me if I had any interest in helping them on a case. And so over the period of 8 or 10 years, I probably worked on hundreds of cases. Some of them were big cases and some of them were small, but I will tell you a few of them that are of note. One of the businesses that I was involved in was a late night nightclub that was membership of people in the hospitality industry, restaurants, hotels, that type of thing, and medical people who got off late and wanted to go by and enjoy themselves for a couple hours. Many, many years ago, I found out that when you're in that business, you get the cops and the robbers. The cops are looking for who was out late that night, for example. So I had studied a little bit of, at Old Dominion, I'd studied a little bit about criminal justice. And I became interested. The problem was there's not a lot of income in that area, usually. And so I always had businesses that produced incomes for me. But on the side, I would do investigation work. I worked on murder cases that were capital punishment cases. I had a case one time where a person called me and said that a person in their office had given them some information that they were a lawyer and they had some information that they might be in danger. I was asked to meet with the lady, and she wanted some advice on how to proceed with it. And so I did meet with her, and she told me that she was the live-in girlfriend of Mr. Hatfield, who was the person of interest in the anthrax case. When she lived with him in Northern Virginia, he had worked in Rhodesia. On occasion, some of his Rhodesian military types would visit and even stay with them. And they would go into the Virginia mountains and shoot machine guns and act out military and so forth. He told her if she ever told any of the stuff that she knew, he'd kill her and make it look like a suicide. After he was mentioned as an interest, she started worrying. So I suggested to her that what she should do is she should call the FBI, and they have a thing called intake, and they have usually new people, junior people working on becoming agents, and they hear your story, and depending on what it is, They then referred up to the next level. And by doing that, I said, once you've told what he wouldn't want you to tell, there's no reason to harm you. It's already out. Not telling it, and nobody having approached him about it, would tell him that maybe he ought to do something about it. She did that, but the FBI didn't call her back. And so I drew the conclusion that the intake didn't think it was worthwhile. I had done some other work with the FBI, and so I called an agent that I knew, and I said that, I told him what happened, and I told him that it was a serious thing. And I told him what it was. He said, I'll call you back in an hour. He was on vacation when I reached him. Called me back in an hour, and he says, the head of the investigation and two of his assistants are going to meet her tomorrow. They're coming down from Washington. And it turned out that they talked to her for 2 days and got all the information. And I never got back with her. That was their business. I found out that she had told me that he was a CIA agent as well. And I don't think anybody knew that because it was never mentioned in any of the reports or anything. And all of a sudden, everything with him stopped. In other words, they dropped him as the #1 person, whatever, after they found that out. And, by the way, within a year, she committed suicide. I could go on for hours with stories like that. The FBI gave me I had a code name. My code name was Nocturnal. We had a guy who came into our club one night, and it was a slow night. There was only 5 or 6 people at the bar, and I wasn't there. And I knew this fellow because I knew them because they were members. And this fellow had a very expensive Mustang car. And I'm not into cars nowadays like that. I like the old cars, but anyway, this Mustang was over $100,000, they said, you know. When he would come, customers would go out and look at it and all this, you know. And he said his father was one of the owners of Kuwait Airlines. He lived very, very close to our club in downtown Norfolk. One night he came in when there was hardly anybody there, and he was talking at the bar about, this was right after the coal incident, when the coal was blown up. And he was saying that there are terrorists everywhere. And he made the statement that within 20 minutes, he could bring a terrorist to the club within 20 minutes. And what he didn't know, that sitting next to him was a sergeant out of uniform of the Portsmouth Police. And so he excused himself to go out and smoke a cigarette, and he called Naval Intelligence. And he says, I'm here in this club, and this guy is from Kuwait, and he told us sitting there that he could bring a terrorist here within 20 minutes. Naval Intelligence doesn't do anything. I don't know how long it was from the coal to 9/11 or the other way around or something, but I remember they didn't tell me anything about it. It was a slow Tuesday night. And later on, when I became friendly with one agent especially, I mean, we went out of town together, and I took him up to Pittsburgh when I had a house up there, and we went to football games and we went to gun shows and stuff, you know. He had been a Marine. We had that Marine Brotherhood thing going. And anyway, he said, what do you know? What do you have anything on him? I said, I got his name and that from his application. And he says, if he comes in again, try to get one of your security people to, he's got a beer. When he discards the beer, have them like pick it up by putting their finger in the top of the bottle. He said then make their way to the back and put it in, put sandwiches in, you know, that type of thing. Anyway, and so we did that. And then they got interested in the club because we had a lot of Middle Easterners visiting the club. And so one night they came in, another agent and a girl agent, really beautiful girl. They were down on the dance floor dancing and, you know, whatever, but they were there checking out who was there. But anyway, that guy disappeared. He just disappeared completely. We never saw him again. We didn't see him downtown anywhere. Anybody you asked says, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know what happened to him. And I could go on and on and on like that, you know. I will tell one more. One guy, he was there every Friday and Saturday night for, I would say, 2 or 3 years. It got so that he was a member, and the members also pay a little when they come, but him and his buddy came every night, so, you know, sometimes Bernie wouldn't even charge him. But anyway, he said that he was just finishing up his master's in computer science at Old Dominion. And he looked a little older, you know, probably in his, hitting 30. And so he took me aside. You know anybody that might be looking for a computer person? He said, I need to get a job or I'm gonna have to leave the country. I said, really? He said, yeah. He says, I don't know what to do. I said, well, you know, your resume should be wonderful with a master's degree. And I said, he had told me before he spoke Arabic and French. He knew 3 languages. I said, tell you what, why don't you give me a copy of your resume? I said, my daughter works for a government contracting firm, and that's all she does is computer work. I said, and maybe they'll give you a shout, and you might end up, you know, with them, and they make good money too, you know. I think it wasn't the next weekend he comes in, and it's only a 1 page, front and back. It's got all his stuff on it. And I said, great. And I put it in my back seat of my car. So the next time that I saw my daughter, I'd have it with me. She lives over on, you know, in Virginia Beach, and we don't get together that often. A couple of weeks went by. I'm sitting there one night, and I said to myself, you know, the FBI might really want this guy. Computers, translations, you know, all of that stuff would be very, very helpful to them. So I called my buddy, and my buddy says, oh yeah, he says, somebody that speaks Arabic, he says, we would give them a job, like, you know, but if he was good, I mean, he would probably go up quickly, a couple of years, you know, he'd go up looking for guys like that all the time. I've got his thing, but I don't have the right car tonight. I said, I'll give it to you next time I see you. So anyway, here's what happened that was so interesting. After 2 years of always coming every night, he comes, and I said, I take him outside, and I say, you're not gonna believe it. This is really wonderful, what happened. I said, I was waiting to see my daughter to give her the thing. I said, and then it occurred to me, you know, with your language differences and your computer skills and the fact that you need a job, I think that I can get you a job with the FBI. And the guy looks like he just had a heart attack or something. His eyes get big and, oh no, I could not do that. I could not do that. I said, well, why not? I mean, you're here in the United States. You speak great English. You know Arabic and whatever. I said, and it's a good government job, you know. He oh, I don't think so. I don't, but you know, like that. Anyway, and he never came back again. And so I thought, well, maybe he graduated and he's gone. And the person that passed out flyers at the other places at closing time that we were open said they saw him all around town for 6 months or so after that. So it scared the shit out of him, you know. I got one more big story. When I was doing investigative work for attorneys, local attorneys, there would be times that they would say to me, I'm working on this case and I've got sort of a problem. Would you have any extra time that you could maybe give me a hand with it? And so I always wanted to maintain a good relationship with them. And so I would do it. I had a license as a private investigator in Virginia in order to cover myself with the law. There came a time whenever the state made a decision that too many individuals had private licenses. And so they made a ruling that if you had a private license, you had to be registered with a company where there was a company of people and somebody owned the company and so forth. And so I looked around and the closest company to me was 3 blocks from where I lived in Virginia Beach. And so I went down there and I went 2 or 3 times because there was never anybody there. And finally, I got the phone number, and the phone number was a mobile number. And the guy answered, and I told him that, you know, I'd been an investigator for quite a while, and that I needed to get myself aligned with an agency for the new regulations. And so he said, yeah, and so we met. He seemed okay in the first meeting, and so he said, but what you have to do, you have to go through a 30-day, 5 nights a week for 4 weeks course, ending with shooting on the range. It was only 3 blocks from where I lived, except that it was so small. They had it in a office complex about a half a mile away, and so they met there. And there was a class of about, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 people. He tried to become extremely friendly with me. He had a partner who was a Marine captain, and the captain was in charge of the White House Marines, the ones that opened the doors and so forth up there. And one night they asked me to go out with them, and we went to the Navy SEAL private club. He got his friend to do the Marine captain to do his trick. And his trick was he would take a cocktail glass and he would start to eat it. He would actually chew off the top of it. I thought it was a little dodgy. I didn't go out with him again. But then he was having a discussion about the new use of cameras. And I mentioned that I was using a camera. And in those days, the camera was a big thing. like this, and it had a tube down to something else that you were carrying. I guess that was the battery. It was in operation to use it, but we used it for family matters, and I used it on occasion. If somebody were trying to fraud an insurance agency on, say, a back injury, I said I've used it several times where I've gone and put a bag of cement in front of their garage door and got up early enough to see them go to work, and then from across the street or down the street a little bit, I was able to film them, zoom in on them, and film them picking up the bag of cement, which then reduced the amount of money that they were going to get considerably. I said things like that. So he said, you know, could you bring that over and show us tomorrow night, you know? And so I said, oh yeah, sure, I can. I put a small TV in my car, and I'm thinking, what am I going to show them? So I get there a little early, and I go up the steps from the first level to the second level. Their office was on the second level. And as I'm going up, I got the camera on, and then when I get up there, I go to the door, and I say, door here, Jimmy Marks, and old-fashioned alarm tape up and over, but unconnected on the right side, 4 feet up. And so I'm doing it like an investigator would do it, you know. So I get back there and I set it all up, and I see his car pull in. So the way this place is set up, I went down and I was inside. He pulls the car in and I start filming him. It's out of the car. He opens up the back door, takes something out of the back, closes the door, opens up the trunk, looks around, puts something in the trunk, and gets something else out of the trunk, closes the door of the trunk, and then he starts to walk away from the car, and I start to zoom in on him. And he stops, like he's thinking, and he turns around and he goes back to the car, and he does something in the trunk. Then he comes around and he comes all the way back down, and he's out of my thing because he's now on the front door and I'm over on the side of the building. It comes time, and he asked me to show him how I do it. I show his office and go all around everything and telling him what I'm doing, you know, and then I show what I shot of him getting out of his car and doing all that crap. This guy and the Navy and the Marine captain had approached me like 3 times to be the third partner in their company, and I declined all the time. So I'm just too busy, I graduated, got my 30 days in or whatever it was I had to do, and I was registered there with them, but I never had any contact with them after that. And that guy was Johnny Walker, the spy, the worst spy in American history. He went to prison, of course, died in prison. His brother went to prison, died in prison. A friend of his in California went and died in prison. I don't know if he died in prison. And his son had joined the Navy, and he was taking stuff out of the carrier that he was on, and bringing it to his dad to give to the Russians. He was caught up in Northern Virginia in a drop where he used to drop his stuff, and they picked it up. So the guy that was the United States' top spy wanted me to join his company desperately. He had an airplane, you know, a small one, but had an airplane, had a boat. The boat you could sleep on at night. I mean, it wasn't big, but it was, you know. And then he had a travel trailer, and he didn't live in a fancy house. And he had a girlfriend much younger than him, who herself was in the Navy. However, she was never involved in anything.